My daughter raised her glass at her housewarming and thanked her in-laws for buying the house.
She thanked the wrong people.
I wasn't her mother that night. I was her bank.
And by Monday morning, I'd be calling the loan due.
Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight. Now let me take you back to where this started. My daughter Ashley's housewarming party was held on the second Saturday of October in the white brick house at 142 Hibben Street in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. It is the kind of house that looks like it was lifted out of a magazine and dropped between two live oaks. 8 rooms, 3,000 square feet, a wraparound porch with rocking chairs Ashley insisted on having installed before the keys were ever handed over. The Spanish moss on the oak trees moves when the wind comes in off the harbor, and the porch lights, there are 12 of them, cast the kind of glow that makes anyone standing inside it look 30% more beautiful. I had walked the property with the inspector before Ashley ever set foot in it. I had sat across from a closing attorney in a paneled office in downtown Charleston and signed 147 pages on her behalf because she and Bradley were on a beach in Antigua the week the deal closed. I knew the wiring. I knew the well report. I knew the roof had been replaced in 2019 and the HVAC had a transferable warranty good through 2031. I had been in commercial real estate for 34 years before I retired in 2023. I knew that house better than my daughter ever would. I arrived at 5 because Ashley had asked me to come early and help with the food. I brought a tomato pie from a recipe my mother passed down to me, a tray of deviled eggs, and a stack of cocktail napkins that matched the table linens because I noticed things like that. Ashley met me at the door in a navy dress and the pearl earrings I had given her for her 30th birthday. She hugged me tight. She said, "Mama, thank you for coming early. You're a lifesaver."
I told her she was welcome. I always told her she was welcome.
By 6, the guests had begun to arrive. Bradley's colleagues from Tate Reynolds Capital with their wives and matching pastels. A few of Ashley's old friends from College of Charleston, the neighbors who had not yet been introduced. The catering staff circulated with trays of oysters and small glasses of champagne. Someone was playing soft jazz from a speaker I couldn't see. I stood near the porch railing with a glass of sweet tea and listened to a woman from 2 houses over describe her azalea garden. Robert and Vivian Kane arrived at 6:15. They came up the front walk like a procession of 2. Robert is 68, a retired vascular surgeon, and he walks the way men walk when they have been told their whole lives that they are important. Vivian is 65, and she walks the way women walk when they have spent 40 years making sure no one ever forgets she was the prettiest girl at Hammond Academy. They were carrying a small wrapped box. I never found out what was in it. I do not think it was the house. Ashley met them at the porch steps. She kissed Vivian on both cheeks the way Vivian had taught her. She let Robert squeeze her shoulder in his careful, paternal way. She brought them inside and gave them the tour I had asked the inspector to give me 18 months earlier. At 7, Ashley came back out onto the porch with a glass of champagne. She tapped the side of it with a butter knife from the kitchen until the conversations quieted. About 40 people gathered around. Bradley moved through the crowd and stood beside her on the second step. "I want to say something before dinner," Ashley said. I was leaning against the porch column closest to the door. I had a clear view of her face. I had a clear view of Vivian's, too. Most of you know how long Bradley and I have wanted a place that felt like ours, a real home, somewhere we could raise a family. She looked at Bradley. He smiled. And we couldn't have done this without 2 people who believed in us when not everyone did. She raised her glass. To Robert and Vivian Kane, who made this dream possible, we are so, so grateful. The porch, the lawn, the 40 people in their cocktail dresses and their summer weight suits said to Robert and Vivian in a single soft chorus and raised their glasses. I raised mine too. I smiled. I have a good smile. I'd practiced it in the mirror that morning in case it was needed. What no one on that porch knew, what Ashley did not know, what Vivian certainly did not know, What Robert in his soft pink pocket square did not know was that Robert and Vivian Kane had not contributed $1 to the purchase of 142 Hibben Street. I had. The down payment had come from my husband's life insurance policy. $116,000 wired from my account at South State Bank in November of 2021. The remaining $464,000 was not held by Wells Fargo. It was not held by Bank of America. It was not held by any institution at all. It was held by me. I had drawn up the private mortgage myself with the help of a closing attorney I had worked with for 22 years. 6%, 30-year amortization, $2,781.21 due on the first of every month, paid from Ashley and Bradley's joint account into mine. 47 months of payments, $130,717 transferred into my account on the first of every month, like clockwork. I sipped my champagne. Vivian, across the porch, dabbed at her eye with the linen napkin. Robert beamed. Ashley was glowing. I made eye contact with Bradley over the top of my glass. He held it for half a second. Then he looked away. That was the moment I decided. I want to tell you how I became my daughter's bank. My husband Walter and I were married for 38 years. He was a vice president at South State for the last 16 of those years before he died, a cardiac event, in the parking lot of his own bank on a Tuesday in February of 2021. He was 64 years old. He went to work that morning the way he had gone to work for 42 years, and he did not come home. Walter believed in life insurance. He had a policy through the bank, and he had a private policy he had taken out in his 50s. And he had told me about both of them so many times I could have written the policy numbers from memory. He said, "If anything ever happens to me, Maggie, you'll be all right. I made sure of it." I told him to stop talking like that. He didn't. The combined policies paid out $850,000 in May of that year. I want to be very clear about something. I did not need that money to survive. The house in West Ashley was paid off. Walter's pension and my own commissions had us comfortable. I had 34 years of equity in commercial real estate clients I could still serve part-time. The money from Walter's policies was not for groceries. It was for the part of my life Walter would not be in. Ashley got engaged in September. Yes, 7 months and 4 days after we buried her father. My daughter brought home a 31-year-old investment associate named Bradley Kane and told me they were going to be married. I did not say anything I would later regret. I told Bradley I was glad to meet him. I made him a plate of grits and shrimp and watched him eat with the careful manners of a man who knew exactly which fork to use. I watched my daughter watch him. She was 27 years old. She had lost her father in February and met this man in May and decided to marry him in September. And I understood, the way mothers understand these things, that she was looking for somewhere to put her grief. The wedding was the following May. In October of 2021, Ashley called me about a house. The wedding was still 7 months away. They wanted to buy something together first. Bradley had said it was a sound time to enter the market. Ashley had said it would feel like building a life. It was the Hibben Street house. She had seen it with the realtor that morning. She loved it. Bradley loved it. It was $580,000, and she did not have $116,000 for a down payment. And Bradley, despite the suit and the watch and the firm, did not have $116,000 for a down payment either. I had $116,000 for a down payment. I had $464,000 more. There were, by my count, 3 ways to handle what Ashley was asking. I could write her a check for the down payment as a gift. I could co-sign a traditional mortgage with her and Bradley. Or I could become the mortgage myself. I chose option 3. You don't spend 34 years writing commercial real estate deals without learning a few things about money. A gift of $116,000 would have triggered federal gift tax reporting against my lifetime exemption. Co-signing would have tied my credit to Bradley's spending habits, which, in our 2 prior dinner conversations, did not strike me as a credit I wanted tied to mine. A private mortgage, properly recorded, kept the money working for me, kept Ashley accountable for her own home, and kept the transaction on paper, in language, in a courthouse drawer in Charleston County. Nothing about love, nothing about family, nothing about trust, just paper.
I called Sam Beauregard, who had been my closing attorney for 22 years. He drew up the note, 6%, 30-year amortization. The first payment was due December 1st, 2021. I sat across from Ashley and Bradley in Sam's conference room and watched them both sign. Bradley read the note carefully. He asked one question about the prepayment clause. I answered it. What he didn't ask about was Section 7. I drove home from the housewarming at 9:45 that Saturday night. The drive from Mount Pleasant to West Ashley is 23 minutes on a Saturday with no traffic. I made it in 26. I was not in a hurry. I have learned in the years since Walter that decisions made in a hurry are decisions made with someone else's voice in your head. The slow drive home was for the voice in my head to be only mine. I poured myself a glass of bourbon when I got home. Walter's bourbon. He kept a bottle of Eagle Rare in the cabinet for what he called occasions of consequence. I poured an inch. I sat at the kitchen table and I drank it slowly, and I did not turn on the light. Then I went to bed. Sunday morning, I called Sam Beauregard at 8 o'clock. Sam is 66. He goes to the 8:30 Mass at St. Mary of the Annunciation downtown, and he picks up the phone before Mass for emergencies. And a phone call from me on a Sunday before Mass qualifies as an emergency. He answered on the second ring. Margaret. Sam, I need you to draft a demand letter. He did not ask which mortgage. He did not ask why. He has been my attorney for 22 years, and he had been at the closing on the Hibben Street house, and he understood, the way Sam always understands, that I would not be calling him at 8 on a Sunday morning unless something had broken. He said, "Tell me what you wanted to say." I told him. He typed while I talked. I could hear the keys through the phone. When I finished, he read it back to me, exactly the way he reads things back, 3 sentences at a time, watching for words I would later wish I had not used. The letter was 3 paragraphs. The first paragraph identified the parties: Margaret Whitford, lender; Ashley Whitford Kane and Bradley Kane, borrowers. It identified the property at 142 Hibben Street. It identified the recorded private mortgage note dated November 14, 2021. The second paragraph invokes Section 7, the call provision, which Sam had drafted specifically because I had asked him to draft it specifically 4 years earlier on a quiet October morning when no one had yet been insulted. The third paragraph stated the outstanding principal balance, $439,604.92, and demanded payment in full within 30 days of receipt. It noted, in language that was not threatening but was also not soft, that failure to pay would result in foreclosure proceedings under South Carolina Code Title 29, Chapter 3. At the bottom, my signature. Sam said, "Margaret, I have to ask, are you sure?" I said, "Sam, I have been sure since 7 o'clock last night." He said, "All right." He emailed me the PDF at 4:15 Sunday afternoon. I printed it on the same paper Walter had bought for our home office in 2009. I signed it. I sealed it in a manila envelope. I sealed a second copy in a second envelope. I went to bed early Sunday night. I slept the way I had not slept in 20 days. The Charleston, Maine post office on Lockwood Drive opens at 8:30. I was there at 8:15. I wore the navy dress I had worn to the housewarming because I am a woman who finishes what she starts in the same clothes she started it in, and because I have never been afraid of being noticed.
I sent the first envelope to Ashley by certified mail with return receipt requested. The clerk asked me if it was a gift. I told him it was correspondence.
It cost $11.40. I drove from the post office to Broad Street. Tate Reynolds Capital occupies the third floor of a converted warehouse on Broad Street, a block off East Bay. The building has exposed brick and exposed beams, and a reception desk made of reclaimed cypress that Bradley once described to me at our second dinner as industrial heritage. There is a coffee bar in the lobby. There is a doorman who is not a doorman. The elevator does not work without a key card. I wrote it up in 9:45 because Bradley's assistant, a woman named Tessa, had once told me that Bradley took his standing calls at 9 and was usually finished by 9:30. Tessa looked up when I came through the glass doors. She did not recognize me at first. I was not the woman in the photographs on Bradley's desk. I was the woman in the navy dress with the manila envelope in her hand. "Mrs. Whitford, I'm so sorry. Did Bradley know you were coming?" "He did not. He's just wrapping up I'll wait." I sat in the reception area. There is a magazine rack. There is a small bowl of mints. There is a print of a sailboat on the wall, which is the kind of print you put on the wall when you cannot afford a painting and you do not want anyone to know it. I waited 4 minutes. Bradley came out of his glass office in his shirt sleeves. His tie was loosened. He saw me and stopped. "Maggie, what are you doing here?" I stood up. I held out the envelope. "This is a courtesy copy of correspondence your wife will receive in tomorrow's mail. I wanted you to have time to read it before she does." He looked at the envelope. He did not take it. I placed it on the cypress reception desk. "Tessa," I said, "thank you for your patience." Bradley said, "Maggie, wait." I did not wait. I rode the elevator back down to the lobby. I walked out onto Broad Street into the October sunlight. I crossed at the light. I sat for a moment in my car with the engine off, and I put my hands on the steering wheel and I let them shake. They shook for 45 seconds. Then they stopped. I started the car. I drove home. Bradley called my cell phone at 10:12. I did not answer. He called again at 10:18. I did not answer. He called 4 more times before noon. I made myself a cup of coffee. I read the obituaries. I waited. Ashley called at 12:15. I picked up on the third ring. Mama, what did you do?" Her voice cracked the way it had cracked when she was 7 years old and broke the wedding china. Same crack. Same disbelief that the world could contain a thing she had done. I said, "Ashley, sit down." I'm sitting. "Mama, what is this?" "Bradley's saying you're foreclosing on us. He's saying you've been the mortgage. Is that true?" "Ashley, honey, yes, that's true." A long silence. I heard her breathing. I heard the air conditioning of her house, my house, the house I own the mortgage on, running in the background. "Since when?" "Since November of 2021, since the day you and Bradley signed the papers." "You said the bank." "Ashley, the bank you and Bradley signed papers with was me. There was no other bank. The note was recorded with Charleston County the same week you closed. It has been a matter of public record for 4 years. She did not say anything. I waited. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Ashley, I assumed your husband would tell you. He signed the same paperwork you did. He read it. He asked Sam a question about the prepayment terms. He knew." Bradley knew. He knew. Bradley knew. And he let me thank his parents, Mama, in front of 40 people. "I know, sweetheart." He let me thank them. He let me hug Vivian. He stood next to me and he raised his glass. "I know." A pause. "Why are you doing this now?" "Because on Saturday night I learned what your husband had let you believe for 4 years." "I had been content to let your husband take the credit, Ashley. I never needed your gratitude. But on Saturday night, you stood on a porch I paid for, and you thanked the wrong people. And your husband lets you do it. And I understood, for the first time, what kind of man my daughter had married.
She started crying. I let her cry.
When she could speak again, she said, "Are you going to take the house?"
That depends on what you do in the next 29 days.
We talked for another 12 minutes. Then she hung up to find Bradley. Bradley called at 2:30. He started shouting in the second sentence. I do not remember most of what he said. I remember the phrase, "You can't do this." I remember the phrase, "What kind of mother?" I remember the phrase, "lawsuits." I held the phone away from my ear until the shouting slowed. Then I put it back. Bradley, Section 7 of the note you sign allows me to demand payment at any time after the 36th month. You signed it. You read it. Sam Beauregard explained it to you in a conference room 4 years ago. Don't pretend otherwise. Silence. He tried a different tack. His voice went soft. Maggie, please, we can work this out. Just give us time. 6 months. We'll refinance, I promise. 30 days, as stated. Refinance if you can. Click. Vivian Kane called at 7:45. She did not shout. Vivian does not shout. She used the voice she had used at the housewarming when she dabbed at her eye with the linen napkin. Gracious, controlled, faintly wounded. Margaret, we need to discuss this situation like civilized adults. I did not say anything. Margaret, are you there? I'm here, Vivian. Margaret, this is a family matter. You are embarrassing all of us. Vivian, on Saturday night, you sat on a porch you did not buy and accepted a toast you did not earn. Until that moment, I was content to let you take credit for it. I am no longer content. A pause. The longest pause I have ever heard from Vivian Kane. Margaret, surely we can come to some arrangement. I have an arrangement. It's called Section 7. Click. Eleanor Pomeroy called Tuesday morning at 9. Eleanor and I have known each other since 1993. She was the listing agent on the first commercial property I ever sold, an office building on Spring Street that turned out to need a roof I had not budgeted for. She introduced me to my husband. She came to my wedding. She came to Walter's funeral, and she sat in the third pew and she cried like she had lost a brother. Eleanor is 68, and she does not call before 10 on a Tuesday unless something needs saying. Margaret, I have to tell you something, and you're not going to like it.
I poured a second cup of coffee. Tell me.
Eleanor had been at the housewarming. She had been standing near the bar. She had overheard Vivian Kane, 2 glasses in, telling a woman named Helena Crawford that Robert and I really came through for the children. Margaret simply couldn't help, of course, with Walter gone. Helena had said something sympathetic. Vivian had warmed to her audience. She had said, Bradley was so worried about Margaret. He told us, very privately of course, that she hadn't even offered. He said, Mom, I just can't put that on her, not in her grief. So we stepped in. Eleanor said, Margaret, he told them you hadn't offered. I closed my eyes. He told them, Margaret, for 4 years that his parents had bought the house. He told his father that. He told his mother that. He told the people at his firm that. Robert has been writing him into the family business succession at Tate Reynolds, in part because he thinks Bradley demonstrated, and I am quoting here, sound asset judgment on the Hibben Street purchase. Margaret, that's what I heard. How long has he been telling them this? Since the closing, maybe before. I thanked her. I told her I would call her back. I called Sam Beauregard at 10:15. Sam, I need the wire records. Every transfer from my account at South State to the Hibben Street closing. Every monthly transfer from Ashley and Bradley's joint account into mine. Every recorded instrument related to that note. I want it all on paper, and I want it in my hand by Wednesday. Sam said, You'll have it Wednesday afternoon.
Sam had it on my kitchen table Wednesday at 3:30.
I sat with it for 2 hours. 47 pages of bank statements, wire confirmations, county recording stamps, and the mortgage note itself with Bradley's signature on page 8. I tabbed it. I cross-referenced it. I built on my own kitchen table the kind of evidence file I had once built for commercial buyers who needed to prove provenance on a property's history.
The math was easy. Bradley Kane had not contributed $1 to the down payment on 142 Hibben Street. Not $1 to any month's interest payment from his own assets. Every monthly transfer came from the joint account that Ashley funded with her school counselor's salary at a rate of approximately 62%. The Kane family had wired exactly $0 to the closing. They had wired exactly $0 to the monthly payment account. They were, by the math, less invested in 142 Hibben Street than the woman who described her azalea garden at the housewarming.
I made copies of everything. I put the originals in the safe deposit box at South State on King Street. I put the copies in 3 manila folders. One folder went into my desk drawer. One went to Sam. The third I drove, on Thursday morning, to the offices of Bradley's firm. I did not see Bradley that time. I left the folder with Tessa. I said when Bradley asks, please tell him this is a courtesy copy of documentation that will be filed in the foreclosure complaint if the note is not satisfied by November 5th. He may want to share it with his father before then. He may not. That is his choice. Tessa, to her credit, did not ask any questions. She placed the folder on Bradley's desk and she emailed me a confirmation at 11:03. By Thursday afternoon, Robert Kane knew his son had been lying to him for 4 years. I did not have to tell him. I had only to send the paper. Ashley came to my house Thursday evening at 4:30. I live in West Ashley, in a 1962 bungalow on Sevy Street that Walter and I bought in 1989 for $48,000 and never sold. It is 1,000 square feet smaller than my daughter's house. The kitchen has the same Formica counters it had in 1989. The screen porch off the back faces 3 live oaks Walter planted the year Ashley was born. I heard her car in the driveway. I knew her car. I opened the door before she knocked. She had been crying. She had not slept. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt that had been Bradley's. Her eyes were red and her hair was up in the kind of bun a woman puts her hair in when she does not want to look at herself in a mirror.
Mama, can I come in?
Of course you can. I made tea. I made the tea Walter and I had made for 38 years. When something needed to be said inside a house. Earl Grey, a splash of milk, 2 cubes of sugar in mine, none in hers, because she had stopped taking sugar at 23. I brought the tea to the kitchen table. Ashley sat down across from me.
Mama, I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know.
I know you didn't, sweetheart. But I should have. I should have asked. I never asked where the money came from. I never asked any of it. I just took it. I just took the down payment, and I took the easy mortgage, and I took the closing dinner where you paid for everyone, and I never asked. You were 27. That's not an excuse. It is an excuse, Ashley. It is a small excuse, and it is not the whole story, but it is an excuse. You were 27, and you had just lost your father, and you had met a man who was telling you a beautiful story about your life. You wanted to believe the beautiful story. You believed it. She was crying steadily now, the way she had cried when Walter died. I let her cry. I drank my tea. When she could speak, she said, "Why didn't you tell me, Mama? Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" I had thought about how I would answer this question. I had thought about it Saturday night, and Sunday, and Monday, and Tuesday. I had thought about it in the car on Lockwood Drive, and at Sam's office, and at the safe deposit box. I had a version of the answer that was kind. I had a version that was honest.
I gave her the honest one. Because I trusted your husband to tell you. Because I thought it didn't matter who took credit for it. Because I was wrong about both of those things. She nodded. She wiped her face. Are you going to take the house? I'm going to honor Section 7. I'm going to expect the note paid in full by November 5th. What happens in those 25 days is up to you and Bradley.
What are my options?
You refinance, either with a traditional bank or with a different lender. You qualify on your own income, or with Bradley's, or with a cosigner who is not me. If you qualify, you close in 25 days, the principal is satisfied, and you keep the house. If you do not qualify, foreclosure proceeds, the house goes to auction, and you and Bradley find somewhere else to live.
Can I qualify on my income?
You make $62,000 a year. The new monthly payment after a refinance at current rates would run about $3,800. You would not qualify alone. You would qualify with Bradley's income, but only if his income is what he has told you it is.
She looked at me. What if it isn't?
Then you will know one more true thing, Ashley, and you will decide what to do with it.
She left at 6:15. She came back Friday with the bank paperwork. The Kanes came to my house on Friday at 7.
I had not invited them. I had not expected them exactly. But I had also not been surprised when the black Mercedes turned slowly down Sevy Street at 6:58 and pulled into the gravel driveway behind my Buick. Bradley had brought his parents. Bradley was driving. He sat in the front of the car for a long moment with his hands on the steering wheel before he got out. Robert Kane knocked. Robert Kane has always done the knocking in his family. Vivian stood behind him in a cream wool coat that was too warm for October, and Bradley stood behind her with his hands in his trouser pockets. I opened the door.
Robert, Vivian, Bradley, come in.
I led them to the living room. I did not offer coffee. I did not offer water. I did not offer the wedding china. Walter's chair was empty. I did not sit in it. I sat in the wing back across from the sofa, and I let them choose their own seats.
They sat in a row, the three of them, like a hearing.
Vivian started.
Margaret, surely you understand the impact this situation is having on our family.
Bradley's career, Ashley's reputation, the optics of this for our circle.
Vivian, are you here to discuss the loan or to negotiate the narrative?
She stopped. Her mouth was open. She closed it.
Robert tried. Robert is, I will say this for him, a better diplomat than his wife.
Margaret, we did not know about the arrangement. Bradley should have told us.
Robert, did you know that your son has been telling people for 4 years that you and Vivian paid for the Hibben Street house?
A silence. Robert looked at Bradley. Bradley looked at the floor.
Did you know, Robert, that Bradley standing at his firm, his partnership track at Tate Reynolds, has been partly built on the perception that he came from family money that took care of him? That he demonstrated, and I am quoting here, sound asset judgment in his housing decision? Robert's face had gone the color of his wife's coat. Did you know, Robert, that I have on file 3 years of wire transfers, recorded mortgage instruments, and county documents proving that the Kane family contributed exactly $0 to 142 Hibben Street? I do. I sent a copy of that file to your son's office on Thursday morning. He may not have shared it with you.
Robert turned to Bradley.
Bradley, is this true?
Bradley did not look up. Vivian said, and I will give Vivian credit, she recovered faster than I expected. Margaret, how much would it cost to settle this quietly?
I waited. We will buy the note from you. Pay it off in full. We are prepared to offer $800,000 cash by Friday next for the discharge of the lien and your silence on this matter.
I watched Robert's face. He had not known the number she was offering. The number was hers.
No. Margaret, that is a substantial premium on what is owed. I am not selling the note, Vivian. The note will be satisfied by my daughter and her husband, or it will foreclose. Those are the options. I do not want $800,000 for my silence. I never sold my silence in the first place. You assumed I had. Robert stood up. Vivian stood with him. Bradley did not stand.
Robert said, very quietly, "Margaret, I am sorry."
Vivian did not speak.
They left at 7:38.
Ashley refinanced through First Federal on November 3rd. She qualified. Bradley's income was, at the firm, $97,000 less than he had told her. He had been billing personal expenses against his bonus advance for 3 years. The bank still cleared the loan, with both their incomes and with the cosigner who was, by mutual agreement, Robert Kane. The principal payoff hit my account at 11 a.m. on November 5th. $439,604.92. I paid down the small remaining mortgage I had carried on the Sevy Street house. I moved $200,000 into Walter's old retirement account. I bought myself a new kitchen table. The Formica one had earned its retirement, and I left the rest in the savings I had kept for the part of my life Walter would not be in. Bradley took a leave from Tate Reynolds Capital in December.
Robert and Vivian Kane have not spoken to me since.
Ashley has. 3 months after the closing, she called me on a Sunday morning. She asked if she could come over for lunch, just her. I said, "I'll make tomato pie." She came at 1. She walked up the steps the way she had walked up them when she was 9 years old, with the same slight hesitation in her right knee. We sat on the back porch under Walter's 3 live oaks. We ate. We did not talk much. She watched the light through the leaves the way her father used to watch the light through the leaves.
She still calls me Mama.
That was always the most expensive thing in the room.